I kind of wanted to get started today with just giving you a little bit of a rundown on Reviewer, and kind of why we're hosting this webinar today. And then give you just kind of a little bit of what we're going to be looking forward to in this webinar. So to kind of start out, Reviewer is an applicant management software. So essentially any program where you're intaking any kind of application, we can run it within Reviewer. So we run anything from scholarships to grant programs, awards, different competitions, contests, call for speakers, all sorts of different things like that. And over the years here at Reviewer, we have run thousands of different scholarship programs. So we have kind of compiled some of the best practices, tips and tricks, things we've seen really successful, to kind of build the ultimate guide to scholarship management, which is our webinar today. So with that being said, my name is Callie. I run all of our marketing here at Reviewer. And I also have Holly here from my team, so I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Hallie. I'm a part of the customer success team here at Reviewer. So I work with all of our clients from the time they are onboarded into Reviewer. I help them get their events up and running, help them with the submission intake, help them with that actual evaluation and review process, and then kind of help them wrap things up and get ready for next year's event. So I kind of have that insider perspective of just understanding what our clients are coming from past platforms, past processes, kind of everything that they've struggled with, and then understanding what they're looking for and kind of getting great use out of and by using Reviewer to kind of run their scholarship event.
Awesome. So I did just want to say before we get rolling here, the chat is open. So if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to drop them in there. But with that being said, we just kind of wanted to start out with why your scholarship program matters more than you may think it does. So the first one, number one, is the big one. It obviously transforms lives. So the ultimate reason for these programs is the students or the recipients receiving these scholarships. So keeping them in mind in every single piece of the process can be really important. The second one is these programs can reinforce your organization's mission. So this is a great way to showcase yourselves to the community, and kind of choose applicants based on what matters to your organization. And the last one is it demonstrates measurable impact. So these are measurable ways that you can prove you are impacting these students and helping them as they are moving through their education. So on today's agenda, we are going to start with design and intent. So this is designing your program, eligibility, criteria, things like that. Then we will move into building the applicant experience. Again, like I kind of said, our applicants are kind of our main focus here. The third one is running a fair, defensible review process. So this is all about your judges, and making it as simple and easy for them as possible. Fourth thing we will go over is managing the full life cycle. So your program from start all the way to the end. And then we will finish off with how to kind of measure, improve impact in reporting, in the kind of data and numbers side of things.
Yeah, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started with pillar number one, which is design with intent. So this is going to be, as Kelly said, focusing on what your actual scholarship kind of application looks like. How are we going to set this up so that we know we are preparing to have a smooth submission process? Making sure that everything on our end is kind of covered so that we give those applicants the best experience possible. So some of the things that I see a lot of our clients kind of coming over with is first thing is just being that they're stuck in their ways. I see a lot of scholarship programs come in and they give out one or two or say even 10 $1,000 scholarships, and it's strictly off of maybe one question. And so one of the big issues with that is there's no diversity. So how are we determining out of 500 applicants which one singular person or which five people are getting that $1,000? The second thing is, what is this essay about and how much does that actually pertain to your organization and your values? So making sure that we actually are kind of connecting the dots and giving out scholarships for something that is going to benefit your organization. The next thing is going to be vague eligibility criteria. And that is a really big one, not only for the applicants, but also for you as an admin. I can very much understand the frustration of admin who are intaking all of these scholarship applications, which is great. But when half of them are ineligible, that ends up just being a waste of your time. And on the forefront, that's also a waste of that applicant's time. So when they, at the end of that process, and they are like, oh my goodness, why did I not get that scholarship? Come to find out they're not even eligible. That's really frustrating for them. That's a waste of two people's times now. The third thing is going to be selection criteria that are subjective, inconsistent, or undefined. So making sure, again, this is going kind of back to the goals of your scholarship, making sure that we have intention behind the scholarship or scholarships we're giving out and how we are awarding those. The next thing is no connection between the scholarship and your organization's strategic goals. Again, kind of touching back on the same thing. But we're not just giving out $1,000 to give out $1,000. What does the applicant need to kind of portray and prove in their application that earns them that $1,000? And how does that benefit your company, right? Making sure that, again, it's not just to random Tims and Joes, and it's to people who actually hold value and have meaningful aspects of them towards your company. One size fits all programs that is just, it's not inclusive. So having a scholarship application where it is applicable to more than maybe one niche is really important. A really big thing that we'll talk about throughout this webinar, but also just when we work with you interviewer in general, is that the more applications, full completed applications you have, the better. We want to boost those numbers. We want to see that ROI increase. It's really important. And then the last thing is no plan for what happens after the award is made. So each year, I'm sure that all of you go get your scholarships ready, you post them live, you award the amount, and then you're done. How are you, again, kind of going back to one of our later topics, but how are you proving that these scholarships you're giving out are making an impact? How can you prove to your organization who is putting countless hours and times to give out this money, to raise this money, to hold events, to award the money? How are you proving that all of that effort is actually creating an impact? So really quickly, a couple things that we'll cover that are kind of solutions, the better way of running your scholarship programs. Making sure that your entire program aligns with your organizational mission. So make sure you set those clear goals that you want to kind of achieve when you're running this scholarship and run with it. Defined eligibility criteria. Save time on your end and your applicant's end. Third, weighted selection criteria. So when it comes time for that kind of review process, you want to make sure that you are weighing the scores and what is kind of putting one applicant above the other. And again, lining that up with your guys' values. Next thing is multiple scholarship types. We don't just want one scholarship that's going to apply to a very niche group of students. Okay. We want this to be broad. We want more numbers. We want more applicants. We want to bring everyone into your event. Next thing is multi-year and renewable scholarship structures. So having a structure where you can renew those scholarships, they can reapply, or just kind of have them come back in and give updates throughout there. If you have a 4-year scholarship where they get $1,000 a semester, you have the ability to make them come back in and let you know where that money is going towards and how that has impacted them. And that kind of leads to the post-award management. So outcome tracking. By kind of following that structure, you can have your applicants come and actually tell you how you have impacted them. And then that's a really great way to kind of let your community, let your organization know this is the great things we are doing with this scholarship program.
All right, so our next pillar here is building the applicant experience. So this is bringing it all about the applicant and kind of focusing on making it the best process for them and increasing your application rates overall. So, kind of building the applicant experience here for you. We first want to start with a profile-centric application portal. So this is where when they go to fill out your form or your application, they go in and actually make a profile. The benefit to this is they are able to save and log out and come back. Oftentimes, what we have seen is students struggle because they will start filling out your application, realize there are quite a few things that they have missing or that they need. They might need a transcript, something like that, and they will exit out of it. And then when they come back, all of their work is gone. Typically, when we see this happening, we don't actually see them completing the form. So that is the benefit to that profile there. The second thing is lowering the barrier and making it mobile friendly. So obviously living in 2026 now, it technology is just the way of the world. So applicants having the opportunity to do it on their phone, tablet, iPad, computer, all the different devices can be super helpful. Especially compared to the old mail-in strategy or only accessible through computers, which sometimes we often see. And then our next one is guided eligibility screening. So these are built-in eligibility checks at the start of the application. So your unqualified applicants don't fill out your entire form. You submit it, you receive it, and then realize they aren't even eligible. Um, so this is a few little questions when they first hit your application to make sure they are qualified. And if they are not, they will be popped to a little screen that tells them they're not qualified, or if they are, they're able to move on. And then in that aspect, if you're running more than one scholarship program, they can see which ones they are eligible if they are eligible for multiple. So that's a way to kind of screen them before you spend your time evaluating them and they spend their time filling out the application. The next one is smart form design. So this is essentially the ability to kind of tailor the form per applicant. So for example, if an applicant answers yes to a question, you might have another box pop up with another leading question based on what they have answered. This is kind of just a way to make your application tailored to your specific applicant and make it as long or as short as needed for that specific applicant. And then the next one is reference collection and recommendation collection. So not having to do this manually, having a system that can send notifications out to people saying, "Hi, you have been asked to fill out a recommendation on behalf of so and so," and they are able to go in, fill it out. There's reminders that automatically go out, and in that way, then your applicants aren't receiving their references from the recommender, reading them, and then giving them to you, and that sort of thing. And then the last one is automated communication. So if they start completing their application and don't get all the way through, then they get notifications to still finish it, missing documents, things like that. Just everything being automated for them so that you don't have to go through the manual work of reminding them. And we have seen that with that automation, it actually increases your applicant rate.
Yeah, with that, I want to show you guys what that actual application process looks like, just so we can kind of put a face to the name and you can understand how intuitive of a process this is for your applicants. So first things first, I know a lot of our scholarship platforms, they have like a Facebook page, social media, they have a website. The best way for you to kind of get your link out and shared with as many people is best. So whether that's sharing it at multiple places, multiple times, however that works. For example, this is just going to be through a website. They then will go and create an account. Again, this is super important so that they can save their progress, come back in, and they can pick right back where they left off. So will create that account, and I'm going to hop forward a couple slides. And then here's an example of that eligibility. So this is a really short and simple example, but for scholarships especially, a lot of our events run probably 10, 8, anywhere from 1 to, I think that we have one program in particular that runs like 60 scholarships all within one submission form. And so what we can do is we can set eligibility. And then with that eligibility, we also can match them to the scholarships they're eligible for. And then from there, they can choose the scholarships they want to apply for. So this really can be as simple or as complex as you'd like it. If they do not answer eligibility correctly for your one specific scholarship or for any, they will be redirected to a kind of a redirect page saying you are not eligible and they will not be able to continue through the form. For those who are, this is just kind of what that actual application process is going to look like. So they'll have basic questions. Everything in here is super secure. So no one has access to this other than you and who else has admin credentials. Another really important thing is the files. I see a lot of scholarship programs right now that are kind of turning over into the more technological side of things simply because they are right now just doing Google Forms, they're doing email, they're doing PDFs, and it's all just being shared to you, submitted through email. That is not safe at all for information about maybe their parents, how much income their parents make, if they're being helped with college, tax documents, bank documents, things that are secure that should not be lost, which happen to be lost all the time. So making sure that we have a secure place to put those files is really important. Essay questions, just kind of the typical. And then a lot of our scholarship programs run letter of recommendation. And so reviewer, what we do is we allow the applicant to invite the letter recommender into reviewer. So they'll put their information and then they will be triggered an invite email, the recommender, they'll click it, and they'll be dropped straight into that reference form. We've started kind of incorporating kind of a rating system into the reference forms as well as an upload, just because this is a really great way to kind of even that playing field. There's a lot of really great applicants who request letter recommendations, and maybe that letter recommender, maybe they're not the best at writing, and so that letter maybe sets them back from someone who's truly not as good as of an applicant. So putting kind of ratings in there is another really great way to just kind of even out that playing field and make sure that things are as fair as possible. And that is it kind of for that application process. We'll head into that next slide, which is going to be your review process. So this is arguably one of the most important parts of your scholarship program is who is picking your scholarship recipients. Looks like we have a question. That was the applicant portal. So that last screen that I was just on, that was the reviewer applicant portal. That will be an example of what your submission form would look like in reviewer. Okay, so first thing that we're going to talk about is standardized scorecards. This is another thing that I see kind of just honestly a lot of bad processes coming into reviewer. I see a lot of clients not even using a scorecard to score their scholarship criteria. They get everyone sit down, they read through the applications, and it's just a hearsay who should out of all these applicants, who should receive that. Which is not a great process because then no one is being evaluated the same way. Some people might think that GPA, for example, is more important, while another person might think that the essay portion of that application is more important. So number one thing is making sure we have a standardized scorecard. So having a scorecard that every single judge is using for the applications. If you're running different scholarships, that's great. Let's have different scorecards for every scholarship so that it exactly pertains to what they're applying for. But for applicants who are being judged on the same scholarship, they need to be judged the same way. With that, we need to make sure that those scorecards, again, are lining up with your values. If I am running a low income scholarship, we need to make sure that this scorecard is heavily weighing how much assistance they are receiving in college, how much their parents make, kind of that aspect, and not necessarily weigh so heavily on GPA, for example. So just making sure that our scorecards align with the goals and values of each individual scholarship. Second is data redaction and blind review. This is a really important one. I know that we have a lot of kind of small town scholarships that are using reviewer to run their programs. Your judges are more than likely going to know those applicants. So it is really important that we are able to kind of take some of that identifying data out of their submission form so that everyone has that free, unbiased review, which is really important. Third thing is score normalization. This is another really important one just because there's not a lot of way around this. It is just kind of matter of fact that I might be a really tough score and Callie might be a really easy score. And that all just kind of comes down to personal opinion. However, there's not really a way to work around that. And so what we do with score normalization is we take the average score that each judge gives each application. On average, what are they giving each application? That then becomes their baseline number. So anything above that becomes above average. Anything below that becomes below average. And from there, that's how you are kind of able to tell which applicants truly were getting above average ratings and not who were just receiving the highest scores because they were judged by so-and-so. So really important there. And the next thing is conflict of interest control. So kind of similar to the data redaction, conflict of interest, kind of the same thing. People are going to know people. You need to make sure that it is a completely unbiased review. Next thing is AI powered summaries. A lot of our scholarship programs are pretty large, and even if they're not, maybe your application is long. And so just kind of trying to save steps where we can. Maybe for that first round, we do summarizing some of the parts that maybe aren't as important. Maybe for that second round, we turn that AI summary on just so that they can have a refresher of some parts that maybe aren't being scored on this round, but it's helpful to know. Then the last thing is reviewer progress tracking. So you want to be able to see who has completed their reviews, who has started, who's behind. You as a judge, or excuse me, you as an admin, it's kind of your job to stay on top of those judges and make sure that everyone is getting reviewed. You stick within your timeline and you're kind of on schedule. And so kind of going back to the automated emails, same thing with those reviewers. You can send all reviewers emails through the platform, and just kind of make everything be in that one centralized place. But it's super easy for you to have that visibility of where your judges are, and then kind of stay on top of that and get on them if they need to get their applications reviewed. With that, I will show you what that actual review process looks like. Perfect, sorry. So this is what we call your judge portal. So your judges will receive an invite email to come into a reviewer. They'll set an account password, and then they will be able to see all of their submissions that they have been assigned. This, for example, is a submission. If you decide to redact any of that information, such as your name, that's an example of what that could look like. We go ahead and view this submission. So another thing that's really important that I kind of just want to touch on is that my guess is that for the most part, your reviewers for your scholarships are volunteers. And so it is really important, again, that we have those volunteers coming back and pouring their time into your event. And so one of the ways to do that is to give them an easy process. Make sure that their experience reviewing your scholarship applications is a good one so that they continue to come and help you out. They're donating their time and you want to keep that coming. So their process is kind of similar to yours where everything is just in one place. So over here on the left, we have that submission form. They can see everything. They can click links. They can click files. They have access to everything. And then over here on the right, we have their actual scorecard. And so this is not my favorite example, but something that I really push our clients to do is instead of doing that 1 to 10 rating, we're having our judges rate on a more emotional response. And the reason for that being, again, it's just the score discrepancy. My version of a 7 could be completely different than Callie's version of a 7. Sometimes it's also kind of hard to determine how is this submission a 7 and this one a 6? How are we kind of deferring that? And so what I kind of push for is we obviously still will do that point system, but instead of doing 1 through 10 or 1 through 5, we have that highest point value being exceeds expectations. And then that bottom value is going to be does not meet expectations, do not move on, that kind of thing. So just kind of keeping little things like that in mind, as you're setting some of your processes up.
All right, so now we are going to move into kind of managing the full life cycle. So this is your program from launch date all the way through post award follow-ups and things like that. So in managing this full life cycle, it's overall important that you have a platform or some type of system or something that set up that can take you from end to end. And the first piece of that is an operational command center. So this is kind of a dashboard or a central place where at any point you can get reports, you can see how many applicants you have, you can see where judges are at, how they're doing. You can see how many people have submitted and not finished, statuses of everything, and kind of dates you're going along in your program. So just having that dashboard to kind of piece everything together at all times can be super beneficial, especially when you have leaders in your organization wanting weekly or monthly or quarterly reports on how your programs are doing. The second one is built-in communication. So this is being able to send emails, leave notes, notifications, things like that. Why it is important to have um, within your platform is because we know things get lost in email. We have seen many scholarship programs where emails are getting sent back and forth, things go to spam, and then never get seen. And then also, it takes a lot of the burden off of you because you can have um, a lot of auto emails go out. And then it's also a safety feature. You can see everything that is being sent back and forth, judges, notes they're leaving, things like that. For their applicants, you can see all of that within a single platform. And then the third one is post awards management. So this is having a spot still within your same platform where you can collect thank you letters, you can get reimbursement details, you can get all the documentation you need, whether you need any sort of GPA verification or enrollment, or you need their direct deposit, things like that. Having a platform that they can come back into after they've already been awarded and be able to upload all of those things securely. And then the last one is year over year program management. So this is not having to start from scratch every single year. Having a platform that can move you over every year, templates, workflows, copying your program over. So you're not starting from scratch every single year and taking a lot of manual time on your guys' end.
Yeah, and then the last thing is measuring and proving impact. So kind of what we touched on at the beginning, making sure that everyone can see the impact that these scholarship programs are actually making. First thing that we'll talk about is outcome tracking. So with these scholarships, how are you impacting the graduation rates? How are you impacting the GPA, the career placements? How are these really impacting the after college life cycle or after program life cycle that you are giving opportunities to these students? Next thing is early risk detection. So flag your at-risk scholars based on maybe their academic signals, missed check-ins, declining engagement, kind of understanding where each of your recipients and applicants are at on their scholarships. Third thing is real-time dashboards. So with every event that you run in Reviewer from year to year, you have that ability to go back, compare data, download those reports. So it's honestly a really great way to kind of show your committee, show your community, show your people what you're doing from year to year. And not only for your actual submission process, but again, for those impact reports that you collect. Really important there. Next thing is scholar stories and content. So take advantage of those recipients and those impact stories and let them kind of showcase their story. It's kind of surprising how many scholarship applicants or scholarship recipients, excuse me, these scholarships really do change their lives in a way. And so by collecting those impact reports and those stories of how they truly were impacted, let them kind of brag on it, post that on your social media, send it out in your organizational's emails, send it out in just however you can do that and kind of showcase, again, letting everyone know the impact that you're making. Next one is donor accountability. So you obviously are having a lot of donations. You're doing fundraisers for these scholarships that you are running. And so there's nothing that a donor likes more than seeing where their money is going and seeing how it is impacting others. So, and that's another just great way to say thank you, saying thank you and acknowledging that you don't just appreciate the money that they gave you one time and just be done with it. You're continuing to hope that they will continue to give you that money, and also just show that they are making a difference. So make them feel better about those decisions of donating those large amounts of money. And then continuous improvement, and this is another really big one. Having everything in one place and being able to look back from year to year, you can see things that are working, things that aren't improving, making changes to make your process better, which is really important. Making sure that we're not staying stagnant and that we're working towards the more modernized approach, which overall is going to be a better experience for you as admin and for the applicants. So just making sure that we're always striving to be kind of a step above for our applicants.
Great. So now we are just going to roll over kind of the complete scholarship life cycle and just making sure that we're not leaving any of those pieces out. So you start with your program design, move into your application intake, reviewing and scoring. And then selection and awards. And this is typically kind of where we see programs stop. So this is taking it a step further with scholar communication, having that within your platform. And then being able for them to come back in, collect things from them, all of that stuff that you need. And then after that, you would move into post award tracking. So that's making sure that you're able to track and pull all of these reports and kind of pull them together for your impact reporting. So then you are able to present it. So, some of our kind of key takeaways that I just wanted to touch on today was number one, define what success looks like. So, as you're moving into this program, what does a successful program look like to your organization? And how are you going to track that before your program even starts? Number two is lowering the barrier to apply, making it easier, making them um, be allowed to save and log out, mobile friendly, guided eligibility. Any pieces you can put in there to lower that barrier for them is going to increase your applications. The third one is standardize your reviews. So that is making sure that you are just having the most fair and honest process as you can. Fourth is managing the full life cycle within one platform purely for automation purposes for your manual time that you're going to be saving and for your applicant's overall data security. Five is tracking the outcomes, not just who's being awarded. So, like Hallie kind of touched on, graduation rates, career placements, scholar stories, things of that nature. And then the last piece is giving your board the data. When the program is said and done, being able to prove how this data or how this platform is affecting the students. Thank you guys for attending our webinar today.